Welcome to the latest episode of the Decoding Business Behaviours podcast, a podcast all about involving behaviours in your business and transitioning to a behaviours-based system. This week we're going to talk about something that's behaviours adjacent, but slightly different from the how-to topics that we've been covering recently, but really hits on something that we've noticed within the hiring market very, very clearly. So we want to talk about, number one, selling your business to a new hire. And then number two, how prolonging or elongating your hiring process, you're actually putting your business at risk of not securing the best talent in the market. I'm joined as always by Aspire's Global Managing Director, Terry Payne. And Terry, we're going to start with this question. How do you sell your culture to a new hire?
Tom, it's great to be back again, so thanks for that. So in terms of selling culture to a new hire, and this is a great topic because it's something I've seen quite a lot recently. I think it's about when you're going into interviews, I'm going to take us back to that behaviours business, a people-focused business. You've really got to interview how you want people to behave in your business, right? So one of the things I've talked about on our previous podcasts is communication, external and internal communication being a key behaviour. And I think that when you're speaking about your business, you have to really talk about that culture. Mm-hmm. When I say culture, often what people get caught up in interviews is talking about the salary and the KPIs and the things that we expect from you, but they don't spend enough time talking about the DNA of the business. What do they want to achieve short term, medium term, long term? What does it look like to be part of that organisation, not just now, but in the future? What's the social aspect? What about their well-being policies? And actually, is it a culture where someone feels that they're being heard and they can thrive in that culture? And I think when you're interviewing people, and I've seen it myself recently, you need to make sure that you're selling your business to that person. Someone said something to me yesterday, which was quite interesting. I was talking about this subject, that the candidate is your client. Mm-hmm. They're either going to buy your job.
They're your customer.
Yeah, they're your customer, right? So they're either going to buy your job or they're going to say, not for me. And a lot of that can be to do with your culture and the way that you position and sell yourself to the person coming into your business.
It's so important, isn't it, to get them to buy in. As you say, we survey candidates all the time, and the number one most important factor for candidates is always salary, right? It's always going to be. Remuneration is so important for the way people build their lifestyle. But that second, third, fourth, fifth most important thing changes so often for people, whether it's the diversity and inclusion policy or the added benefits, or what are your CSR initiatives, or what are the incentives for me to do well at my job. So it's really hard to guess what that individual sat in front of you is going to be motivated by. And if two jobs have a very similar salary is not going to be the deciding factor. It's going to be those other pieces.
Yeah, and I think when we're looking at hiring people, you're bringing people into a business and an interview process. You have to remember there's some basic needs that humans want, and there's a theory. Is it
Maslow's?
Yeah, Maslow's theory. So it's triangle, and people can look it up online. But at the very, very base of that triangle is things like security. Mm-hmm. Okay, so it's salary. Right, so that's a tick. So I need to be able to pay my bills. I need to be able to live. Then it goes up, and then as you go up, okay, is the location good? Can I get into work? Yes, I can. I've got to travel for 4, 5, 6 hours to get into work. And then everything above that is really more about the culture and how you fit into that business, how you're looked after in that business, what's the progression of that business. And often when a candidate is going to market and they're looking for a new job, yes, they're looking at the salaries, but they're looking for what sits above that, because ultimately we spend a lot of time in work. It doesn't matter if you're hybrid, if you're in the office, you're working in an environment for around 40 hours a week in the UK. And so it's so important that people, when they're in there, they're enjoying what they do. And culture is probably one of the most underrated things that people think about, but I think it should be at the forefront of everyone's mind when they think to hiring. How do I sell my culture to the people coming into the business?
Yeah, spot on. I mean, it's so important with that. And sort of alongside that, should you include like a meet the team, meet your co-workers? And if you should, when should you do that? Should that be after they've signed the contract, as part of the interview process, the couple of days before they start, so they can see a more vivid version of this living culture?
Yeah, so this is a great question, and I'll tell you for why. So there's people sit on the fence with a meet the team, and there's two reasons for it. Number one, it can be great in terms of culture. So you can come in, you can meet the team, and you think, yeah, these are like-minded people. I can work in this business. They feel the buzz. Great. The flip side and the downside to that is that if you're going in with a meet the team and you're asking for the team's opinion, then you're starting to create bias. It could be conscious bias, it could be unconscious bias. So I think you have to tread carefully with the meet the team. I think it should be more about coming in and people seeing what the vibe is like within the office, that you can hear people on the phones if you're in a sales organisation, and then I think once they've signed the contract, then coming in. I don't think there's a problem with walking the floor with people, so they get to see the environment, but I do worry sometimes that with interview process they're elongated with a come in and meet the team, and then these people are paraded around the office. Almost these people are going to become their colleagues, and then we're expecting these people to take them on, right? Yeah. So I think you have to tread really carefully with that. It's okay to do it in a social environment, I think. So welcome them to the team. We do it here in Aspire. We do new starter drinks, and that's a great way of introducing them to the culture of the team. But I think the best way for people to understand the culture is not in this kind of contrived set up arena where you go in and you meet the team and shake hands. I think it's actually seeing people doing the job. Yeah. Right. I'm going to go back to one of my football analogies, Tommy, because I think I've put one into every podcast. You see new managers that go into football, they don't go in and shake the hands and meet the team. They sit in the stands and watch the team. Right? That gives them a bit of an understanding of the performance of the team, the culture of the team, and how it works. And I think that's the way that you should meet the team. It should be observing what are they like actually in real life. What are they doing? What's the ethos of the company, the culture, and the vibe that you get from walking into the office?
Yeah, that's being creative. You mentioned there around the extension of the time to hire, and that's something we wanted to come on to. I've got some stats for you here that I wanted to share with you. So we're a recruitment business, for anyone who doesn't know, so we're handling jobs all the time. We're working with real clients, real candidates, and we're seeing a trend of what's happening in the market, and as well as advising our clients on how to make their best hire, and our candidates how to get their dream job, we're also able to glean from that, okay, what areas that generally businesses could improve their hiring process. And one of the ones I've got for you here, 20% of jobs, so 1 in every 5 jobs, they're adding an extra stage to their interview process late on. So they'll have a second interview and they'll add a third, or they'll have a third interview and they'll add a fourth. What is the impact from late on adding an additional stage to your hiring process?
Look, it's a good question. I mean, we deal with this all of the time, and the first thing I want to say, a bit of preamble here, is when we're doing this podcast, it's not to try and sell to clients, this is how you should do it, right? So we're experts, we do this every day, but it's really about thinking more about the experience of the candidate, right? So sometimes as recruitment consultants, we give advice and it looks like we're selling, but actually what I try to say to clients is think of the candidate experience. So let's take the first part of that question. So when you elongate a hire, you put a stage in without a candidate knowing, what's the candidate experience? So they come in, they meet you, they enjoy the meeting. They're then told, come back a week later and you're going to meet for a final interview and you're going to meet CEO, the MD, whatever, then a decision will be made. So then they're hanging a hat on this decision, right? So all of the things that happen outside, so take it outside of recruitment, take it outside of your own hiring pattern. This human being's gone home, right? They're now going for all these emotions. They're probably not sleeping. They're probably preparing for the second stage interview, all of the adrenaline that goes with it. You tend not to sleep the night before. Good candidates are not always good at interviews because they don't have to do them that often. So there's all the anxieties that go with that. They get themselves all pumped up. They go in for the interview. They're expecting a decision. They get a phone call. We're going to add a third stage, right? So often when people are in the phase of looking for jobs, that's a time when it's most destabilising for them, both mentally, physically as well, because if they're not sleeping. But on the mental side, you're going into your day job and you're trying to focus on doing your job. In the back of your mind, you're trying to focus on an interview, right? Yeah. And you're trying to focus on getting into a new job. So you kind of got your foot in one and then in another, so you're in two camps. And that's really taxing on a person. So if you then add a third stage, what you're doing then is you're getting these people that start to disengage from you. So they go on this kind of curve, I think, that when they go on a first interview and they love it, it's great, and they invite you back for a second. So you've got this synergy between candidate and client. When you add stages without them knowing and elongate the process, you can start to get that disengagement.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden, what else happens, and this is the second part of the question, is that how it can affect clients is someone else comes along and says, we've got an opportunity, right? And now, remember that engagement curve? So all of a sudden, these people will move a little bit quicker. So they think, actually, maybe that's the sort of company I want to work for. Someone who has seen me twice and actually sees the value that I offer. And so their engagement curve has gone up with the new opportunity and yours has gone down. Now, often with clients, it could be that they needed to put this third stage in because they wanted to get one more sign off. But I say to people, often think about the candidate experience. And sometimes when we're sitting this side of the table, so I'm the hiring manager and you're the candidate, we think too much about our business and our needs rather than thinking about how is that person feeling and are we giving them a good experience about the interview process, but also the culture of our company.
Yeah, that is such a great point, and I think there's a question I'm going to come on to afterwards that kind of factors in, but from a purely business decision-making standpoint, of those jobs that I was talked about earlier, only 30% of jobs with more than 2 stages actually are placed, we're finding. So where clients are adding those additional stages, they're not completing the hire. You know, something our chairman always talks about is how important is it that you fill that vacancy? Mm-hmm. Well, if it's important that you fill your vacancy because it's crucial to your growth plans or your business's success, it's not in your business's best interest to add on prolonged stages, is it?
No, and I often think that sometimes when we're hiring, we're thinking so much about our needs and probably being overly cautious that, again, we're not thinking of that candidate journey. Now, the reason that stat's come about, it's an interesting stat, is because what happens is the longer and longer you take, other opportunities will come, and candidates have multiple opportunities. Now, we often think that a candidate comes in for an interview with me, that they need to sell themselves, and almost, and I'm not saying this is the case with all hiring managers, they're lucky that I'm offering them a job in this great organisation. Mm-hmm. What you have to think about is you're also lucky enough to have this great candidate in front of you. And I try to often explain to people, you have to take it out of the interviewing process. If you go and view a house, right, this is one of my favourite metaphors. If you go and view a house and the estate agent says to you, no one's viewing it, take your time. You'll probably take your time, right? Yeah. You're probably going to really elongate the process. You might go back and visit a few times. If they say to you, you're going to lose that house, okay, and there won't be another one on the market at that price, okay, for 6 months, 12 months, you're probably likely to make a decision quickly. And I think that's the same when it comes to interviewing, is that when you've got a good candidate in front of you, we can sometimes think that, well, they're going to definitely take my opportunity. They're not. Right? Because there's other opportunities. There's other houses on that street for sale. And if you don't sell yours, they're going to go and buy the one next door, right? And you've lost out on the sale and you're still on the market.
Yeah, especially in the current market, right? There's so many more and more job opportunities coming up. It's going to be a point where you're one of many, many opportunities that candidate could take. Your culture is going to factor into that, and your time to hire is also really key. And something you always talk about is this question of length of stages versus time to hire. Mm-hmm. And you can have loads of stages. It's more about the duration from start to finish, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think, again, I'm going to go back to that sort of curve of engagement. So you could have 3 stages, you could have 4 stages, but it's the time frame that you have those stages that are key. So let's say you get someone in for first stage and they're great, and you really want them in your business, then you should get the second stage, try and get it at the end of the week. Move people's diaries. Is there an internal meeting that actually can be had another day? Mm-hmm. Because this key hire could add massive value to your business, right? Then if you want a third stage, it's as quick as the following week. Because again, you can move some internal meetings, external meetings, because this person can add value. So you can still condense the timeline and have multiple stages. It's just about prioritising that hire. prioritising what that hire will bring to your business in terms of growth, in terms of maintaining the business you've got, and making sure that you don't go backwards. Nobody hires for fun, right? This is a key thing. Nobody says, oh, do you know what? I might go and spend 50 grand on hiring a new manager. Nobody does that. People hire because they have a need.
Yeah.
And when they have that need, you have to put that need at the top, because, again, if you don't bring those candidates in, you could be waiting a long time until they come again.
Do you think sometimes people can be so nervous about getting it wrong, it stops them from getting it right?
Yeah, because unfortunately, and it's something I talk about quite a lot, that we focus too much on perfection.
Yeah.
I want the perfect candidate. They're a 9 out of 10, but I want a 10 out of 10. I'll wait until the right candidate comes along. Well, you could be waiting forever. And markets in recruitment, and I know we're getting very recruitment centric here, they change constantly. So we go from markets where we say we have a candidate rich and job short market, and we were in that last year, right? So, you know, it's well documented that the recruitment market in general, because of everything that's happened with cost of living and what's going on in the economy, you had lots of candidates that were in the market that wanted a change, but there wasn't enough jobs to go around. So what happens there is you can wait for the perfect candidate because, well, okay, my job is really critical to me. For me to take on someone in this type of economy, I need to wait. You've got lots of choice. But the market's changed like that on a knife edge. And it's now changed that there is lots of jobs, and the candidate market is getting smaller and smaller and smaller, which then gives those candidates a lot of choice. Okay? So there's the problem. That's what happens. And if you continue to drag out the process, what's going to happen is that you will never fill your role and you won't be able to drive your business forward.
Yeah, especially if you're, as you say, looking for that 10 out of 10. Quite often I speak to consultants, or I speak to colleagues who work in do marketing in other recruitment businesses, and the amount of descriptions of what the client is looking for and won't accept any less, and then you go and use something like a LinkedIn Insights or a Lusher or something like that, and you put in all those characteristics, and there is none. That does not exist. You know, these people with this level of expertise don't exist. So you can't afford to miss out on good candidates because you're waiting around for a unicorn that doesn't exist.
No, and I one of the things I like about our industry, and I know this is probably going to be a topic where people might argue, but we get to meet candidates, and one of the reasons I've been in this industry for so long is that whenever I look at a CV is a list of experiences and dates. It doesn't tell me anything about the person, right? So this whole podcast series we've been talking about behaviours. You can have two CVs right next to each other. One is a 7 out of 10 in terms of what you look for, and one of them you may rank as a 10 out of 10. Let's go wacky, 10 out of 10. However, the behaviours of the 10 out of 10 won't fit the culture of your business in that person, candidate A. Candidate B, the 7 out of 10, all of their behaviours fit your business. Now, isn't it feasible that you can train the skills required to do that job efficiently, so you can take the 7 to a 10, and they would be the better hire for your business, right? So sometimes when people are taking a long time and waiting for the right CV or the right candidate, actually you need to look deeper and you need to get in, meet the human being. Now, if you meet that person and they tick all of the boxes in terms of their behaviours, their characteristics, they really fit into the culture of this business, it's better to take a punt, because we all started somewhere, and someone gave every single one of us, every single person listening to this podcast, at some point someone would have given him an opportunity, right? That's what happens.
100%. And it's almost, you know, do the exercise yourselves. Pick your 5 or 10 best performers in your business and go back and look at what their CV looked like when they came to you, and compare them to where they are now, right? Some of them will have come in and they will have had the pedigree, and you'd have gone, yep, they're exactly what I wanted. But I bet 30, 40, 50% of your top performers in your business are ones that if I'd asked you on the day you interviewed them, do you think this is going to be one of your top 5 performers, you would have gone, I'm not sure about that.
No, and I think, you know, we have to think much more about Yes, short term, I get it. You look, I'm not saying that you hire someone that doesn't have the skills. Remember I said a 7 out of 10. So there has to be some match. There has to be a match, right? Of course there does. But it's really about the medium and long term, what these people will bring to your business. And going back to a point, when you elongate a process, when you find someone that comes in, they're a 7 out of 10, they're culturally right for your business, or even candidate A, let's say that they were a 10 out of 10 and culturally right for your business, and you are proceeding with too much caution, too much, is it right? Should we add another stage? Let's add another stage. And you lose that person. The chances of a 10 out of 10 coming around are very, very rare. The chances of a 7 out of 10 that come around are very, very rare. And so you could end up having a number of candidates that would take the opportunity with you to actually ending up with 0.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and we see that a lot. And one of the things that we're trying to educate clients on at the moment, and it's a real stat, is with a lot of our candidates that are going for interviews now across all of our different industries, they've got 2 or 3 different opportunities on the table at the same time. So who's in control?
Exactly that. And once they sign the contract, that isn't job done, wipe your hands, away we go, this person's now here for the next 18 months to 2 years. Getting those first couple of weeks right is an extension of the hiring process, isn't it?
Yeah, I think onboarding is underrated, but it's a massive part of the process. You have to make sure when they come in that you're giving them the care and attention, that you've got a good onboarding process, and that they feel part of the team and you get them integrated into that team. The other thing is when someone signs a contract, you have to make sure that you keep them engaged from contract signed to start date. Mm-hmm. I know a number of people, I've had it happen to me personally with my own hires, where they've signed a contract and sometimes you can make the mistake of thinking, done deal, on to the next thing. Let's say they're on a month's notice period. What's going on in that month? How many people are contacting with the next opportunity? Engagement curve, right? We all get buyer's remorse. So we get excited about an opportunity and then it goes quiet for 3-4 weeks and you start to get these little voices in your head. Maybe they don't want me, maybe that opportunity is better. Maybe I'll accept the counter offer.
Fear of the unknown.
Yeah, the fear of the unknown. There's so many things that happen. So I think that at that point it's important between contract signed and start date that you're constantly contacting them. So I do it myself with people that have started with me, and I'll WhatsApp them, I'll touch base with them, I'll tell them how excited I am to join the company. And I'm doing that because I want them to feel welcome. I want them to feel that they're already part of the team, but I know that engagement is going to be key to their engagement in this organisation. And that's something that I'd really like to push to clients out there, is that it's so much about them being just as engaged as you are, and vice versa. That's just why I think that interviews are 2 ways, they're not 1 way. And we should allow people to come in, ask us questions, challenge us, and then it is our duty when we take them on to keep them engaged.